Great, thanks so much. And yeah, I'm not quite Joanna, but hopefully I can entertain you guys as well. Maybe for whoever doesn't know who we are, we're Alphagreen, and we are basically Europe's largest marketplace. The aim of the business is to provide customers with one stop to get the best brands and best products. As a result of having more than 200 brands and more than 3,000 products now, we made the largest data set of kind of granular data points on CBD products, so format, dosage, pricing, point of sale data, etc., which is what I'm going to talk about today. We've established ourselves in October 2019 and scaled pretty quickly since, raised now £3.5 million in total with various investors, including Annexes. And we really see ourselves as a tech company rather than, let's say, some sort of easy content management system with a bunch of brands in an inventory. So most of the time we actually don't take any inventory. We're connected via an API key to all the different brands globally. And in terms of kind of structure and what I'm going to cover today, so we just mentioned who we are. I'm going to explain our approach to business intelligence and generally also the business model a bit more rather than just the marketplace. And then I'm going to dive deeper into how we actually use data to launch our own brand, for example, but also, of course, for you and whoever is interested in the room to launch a brand or kind of both on the CBD or the medical cannabis, how one can look at data to gauge traffic and also get the pricing right, the format right, and also to basically be better than the competitors. And of course, at the end, I leave 5 minutes for any questions. So I guess before jumping into the business intelligence topic as well, so what we've built out on top of being a marketplace and having data, we also help various brands to scale. So we work with on the search engine optimization. We work with Amphora. We work with Taylor Mamon and Ignite. And we basically do also influencer marketing, email marketing, and basically also web development if somebody wants to launch in the UK and has only a German presence at the moment, and vice versa, of course, if somebody is in the UK and wants to launch in Germany, we do it as well. We are actually present now in 7 different countries in local languages, optimized for local content and local backlinks. So we know how to do that. And of course, data is a very key part to actually also know how to set up a site to get traffic there. When it comes to our data product, we basically started, of course, by just looking at what kind of brands we have on the data, on the marketplace. We started then cleaning up a lot of the data we had from our, let's say, Magento 2.4 content management system, put it into SQL, clean it up, and then we use a visualization tool called Metabase, very similar to Power BI or Locker, with the difference that you actually need to code for Metabase. And basically in Metabase, we then do various visualization exercises on the data we collect. Again, the data is pretty much free accessible. I mean, if you want, you can kind of scrape Alphagreen.io and clean the data, and you pretty much come to the same result. Of course, the benefit of also accessing our data product is actually that you have that in real time. And of course, you don't need to rescrape our site all the time. And again, it's not very easy to actually build a scraper who can scrape our site. But what we do, as I mentioned, we look at strength, volume, format, type, pricing, and also when a product was released, or when a brand released a product, which is also related to product innovation and new product development. And we now have more than 3,000 products. Still fairly UK heavy, although if you Google, for example, CBD Ignite, and you're sitting in Germany right now, we are actually with our German site on page 1 in Google. Or if you look at, I don't know, Fruchtgummis CBD, you will probably also find us on page 1 or page 2 in Google already in Germany as well. So let me jump straight into the data product. So again, this is Metabase. It's kind of like a white label data visualization solution you can populate with code. And so when it comes to driving and scaling a brand, of course, as you all know, it's fairly difficult to advertise on Google and Facebook. It is possible using cloaking strategies. We do that as well. It's very difficult to scale that though, because Google starts blocking your accounts and you kind of have to recreate new accounts. And also B, there is quite a big conversion loss because usually what happens when people advertise on Google, they advertise with a domain which is fairly clean, nothing related to CBD. They bid on CBD words, then they get to that clean domain. And then after clicking on a call to action, let's say buy that product, they then get redirected to your main site. And of course, through that redirection, you actually lose a lot of people on that way, which increases your customer acquisition cost as well. So what therefore is the best growth channel in this industry right now is still the organic search on Google. And how do you influence organic search on Google is by writing a lot of really relevant content. And how do you know what kind of content to write? Well, this is the first time we kind of look at data. And so what we can see here is basically an aggregation of search volume data. And we know that this is for the UK at the moment, although we have that, of course, for Germany, US, etc., for every single country. We know that here, for example, in the UK, the number one keyword is CBD oil, and there are 197,000 keywords per month. 197,000 search inquiries per month typing in CBD oil. That is now followed by CBD oil UK. There's 73,000. CBD oil for pain is another one, best CBD oil, etc., etc. And of course, you can see that the majority of people Google CBD oil, and then after that, CBD oil UK, and then down the line, full spectrum CBD oil, because for full spectrum CBD oil, you usually have to already know or you need to have heard that maybe there's full spectrum as well. So that's, of course, smaller. And so how do we go about that data and how do we use that, right? So that means, for example, we write content which addresses certain keywords. And of course, let's say the keyword CBD oil benefits. So if I Google CBD oil benefits, what I see, Healthline is number one, Healthline very well. So basically kind of like news articles usually, and question mark if we ever gonna be better ranked than Healthline. But as you can see here, actually the possibilities of CBD, all you need to know about the benefits is actually on page 1 in Google already, right? So the customer then comes to this page, starts scrolling this page. And of course, at some point, we will start trying to sell something to the customer. Like here, for example, we're selling CBD oil from Sibdol. And it also is actually, there is another AI element in product recommendation, because we also look at what kind of cookies the user has and where he has been before, etc. But long story short, if you're a brand, obviously you're going to use not somebody else's products like we do here, but your own products. But the point is of that story is that you kind of want to figure out what kind of search volume there is behind certain keywords, and then write content which addresses that keyword to then actually rank for that keyword. Let's say, for example, as you can see, most of the keywords are relatively generic because there are no real brands yet in CBD, which is good and bad, right? Good if your marketplace is actually good, because you can be fairly generic and you can attract the customer first and then manipulate and basically recommend something to the customer. But at the same time, let's say, for example, my example with Ignite, which did spend a lot of marketing money before. If you look at Ignite, CBD Ignite, for example, no idea actually how I rank in the UK, but so Ignite, Flawless, Vape and Juice, Subdol Oil, Ice Head Shop, Ignite CBD. So for some, actually funny enough, in Germany, we rank much better, and then Ignite on page 2, right? So, but that's an example where you then, of course, as an Ignite, you obviously try to rank number 1, but of course, because nobody actually knows about Ignite, there is no real point to even rank for Ignite number 1, because everybody's Googling CBD oil or benefits or pain, etc., etc. So that's kind of the first example of how do we use data to scale, and of course, that's how you can use data to scale your own brand as well. The second example, how do we collect data? So we collect data obviously on various different fronts. So capsules, gummies, oils, vapes, etc. And so if I look at oils and I'm about to launch a product, I want to, of course, understand, well, how do I price a product, right? And right now, everybody prices the product very similar to, let's say, how everybody else prices the product, which is basically they go on, let's say, Alphagreen.io, and they type in, let's say they type in 1,000 milligrams CBD product, and we can see basically 1,000 milligrams with turmeric, 110 pounds, 2,000 milligram. Okay, let me just be maybe more, maybe let's say 10%. So 30 pounds, 52 pounds, 54 pounds. So all over the place, but also because I probably should filter for just oil to be more specific. So oil, okay, so oil 54, 52, 30. Obviously, we're kind of underpricing it because it's to get the customer to even buy product initially, and rather than trying to build our brand here, 69, 49, etc. Right? And so that's one way to obviously price a product to be kind of like where the market average is. The other ways, however, also to actually say, okay, the price is for, as I just showed you, let's say for 1,000 milligram product, let's say the most common format, which I show you in a second, is 10 milliliter. If it's a 1,000 milligram product, it's basically a 10% product. Now, a 10% product is around, if you take like the really, really big average, is 38 pounds. And of course, you can also see that a full spectrum is more expensive than a broad spectrum and an isolate. So in fact, broad spectrum here is actually cheaper than an isolate, even though, of course, in production, broad spectrum will be more expensive than an isolate. But here, it's coming probably because there are more premium brands with actually an isolate product than there are with a broad spectrum, and therefore it skews up the pricing. But long story short, I can say, okay, a full spectrum costs 43 pounds. And therefore, I know that, okay, that's the average. Now, I also know from looking at various other suppliers, for example, that I can buy a full spectrum, 1,000 milligrams, 10 milliliter for 7 pounds, right? And so I know there is a really, really healthy margin, which means I can actually start underpricing the market and starting to launch a product which is cheaper than the other products out there. So that's basically one example of data and how you use data to inform your decisions. Again, we have that on an average kind of aggregate basis, of course, rather than just considering different products. We also know the oil price distribution is basically, and there are more products which are basically around the kind of like 10 to 40 pounds mark rather than very, very many expensive ones. But then we can actually overlay it with point of sale data. And we know that for 40% oil is actually very, very popular. Now, knowing that there are actually not that many 40% oils will also then give you an idea that actually you might as well launch 40% oil. And this is a better view to show that. So for example, that's kind of your strength in milligrams distribution. And we know a 500 milligram or 1000 milligram oil are the most common products out there. And the high percentage ones, they're not that many. Similar what I mentioned, 10 milligram milliliter oil is actually very, very common, followed by 30 milliliter as a format. And then of course, we have also, of course, a brand data, like which brand is the cheapest, which brand is the most expensive one, and how do they differ? How do they differ in terms of their different products? What kind of products did they launch? And so we work, we just launched this product, basically our data product. So this is, again, going back to this slide, and we obviously, well, sell the data. So if you have any questions or you want to have access to the data, please get in touch. I think the main difference to anybody out there with also a data product out there is that apart from, let's say, Headset in the US, which is very good for THC data, nobody actually has point of sale data. And the reason Headset has point of sale data and basically very granular data as we do is because they buy data from dispensaries. Everybody else who you kind of know is usually survey-based data, which is of course not as accurate because surveys are usually also not conducted in a very accurate way and are also a lot of the time very, very outdated fairly quickly. So that's pretty much on the how to scale data, how to use data to scale your brand. Very happy to take any questions.